I think we're. Oh, yes, there we go. Oh, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ, where you make this the station for the imagination. Yes, you guys help me look good, and I kind of like it. I kind of like it. All right, we're getting back into our extended series on taking the classic Dungeons and Dragons classes and taking them apart, which is why it's called a cutting class series. And for those who do not know, in our cutting class series, our we take the classes. To this week we're going to talk about the Ranger, and surprisingly enough, it kind of fits in with this week's real world theme of Thanksgiving here in the States. And we're going to talk in our little preamble in the beginning here, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then each day we do have, it is kind of divided up into like subsections. So we have Monster Monday, Trope Tuesday, World Building Wednesday, etc., etc., etc. So please participate in the show live if you wish over on YouTube, Twitch, and our own Discord server. If you join the Discord server, the audio gets punched out there, and you can kind of drop in links and pictures and things like that, which you're unable to on Twitch and or YouTube in a certain manner as well. And of course, you can talk a little bit before and after the show. Now, this week here in the States, we do have Thanksgiving. And if I can be very generalized, it is like giving thanks to the people who were settlers that came here and joined the native peoples who were here in the States. And it really does fit into the theme of the classic Dungeons and Dragons Ranger. Now, for someone who's old enough like I am, the original White Book and BX and Beckme and whatnot didn't have the Ranger class. As a matter of fact, a lot of the classes that we now take for granted did not exist back at that time. Sorcerers, what we today call the Rogue, what we today call the Wizard was had a different name. You know, the Rogue was a thief, the Wizard was a magic user, and the Ranger came along after that. And the Ranger kind of filled a double trope, a double position in many ways. I suppose today, had we not had the iterations that we did, a Ranger probably would be a subclass of another, like a fighter subclass or something, if we kept our classic four classes around and didn't, develop other specifically only other classes and whatnot. But anyway, that's the case. So um, Tesla Ranger, one of our intrepid, and consistently brilliant moderators here, has already dropped in a descriptor for going to our TV tropes, because you got to start off with the tropes first. Before we start breaking things, we need to have a basis. So let's see. Here we go. Forest Rangers, because you always got to have the forest, right? No, we're not talking about the kind of fellow at the national park who wears the snazzy uniform. We're talking about the forest-dwelling recluse who serves as a self-appointed guardian for their ancient and enchanted home. They may wear green and attempt to blend in their forest surroundings. They guard their forest with their bow slung across their back and would rather take your hat off with an arrow than post a polite notice to please put out your campfire before you leave. In a standard fantasy setting, expect at least one elf to be this trope. The Forest Ranger may also be a nature hero and have similar associating tropes. However, the Forest Ranger is not a hero and may be a member of a large group of forest dwellers, such as an elven city, or even be a guard to such a city. Primarily, this meshes with the archer archetype quite often, but rangers with an axe to grind or wielding a blade on a stick are also common. Blade on a stick. If they are more civilized, they might use bow and sword in accordance. Lesser known fact, the word ranger does not mean one who fights with range, but one who watches over a range, like modern day park rangers. So they are not at all limited to the archer archetype. And that's pretty important because in a modern context, the ranger derived from literally going out ranging away from a distance, much like in a modern context, the word sniper came about from sniping at individuals. And so it's kind of strange to think that the word ranger isn't as ancient as we would like to think it is, but it really isn't that old in the in a societal context. Um, let's see. Rogers Rangers during the 18th century colonial North America, whose mission was to protect British settlers from raiding Native Americans and their French allies. In the North American wilderness, the European style of standing armies and linear warfare did not work in the woods because the Native Americans did not play by the same rules. They would fight using ambush and hit and run tactics. The concepts, of the ranger was to take frontiersmen who are able to live in the wilderness and adapt the Native Americans' guerrilla tactics and beat them at their own game. The Rangers did two things in history. They patrol and they raid. The idea of ranging or being a borderer means protecting the boundaries of your nation or your home. And of course, plenty of cultures had a version of this, which makes a lot of sense, right? Because if you have a bunch of people out there, no matter yeah, powwow music forever. Yeah, the idea of people ranging out. Now, I think one pretty significant problem I have, and this is pretty brutal to think about this, is that while the term ranger and such, in terms of say, a British colonist coming over to the United States, the problem with that is, oh, I don't know, the people who lived here were already ranging long before long before the states were discovered. So myself and a friend of mine used to celebrate Thanksgiving as like happy genocide, beginning of the genocide day. Oh, happy syphilis day to you too. Pretty sarcastically given, but the concept of Thanksgiving is this idea that two groups of people who were different, at least the high-minded concept is that two groups of people completely different, strangers in a strange land, come together and celebrate their ability to survive at least one season, learning the techniques and communicating with the people who are there. And I think in a Dungeons and Dragons sense, ignoring the genocidal sense of the real word version of it, Rangers really do fit in. And of course, as Dungeons and Dragons has moved on, the Woodland Ranger has really spread out to be a person who's adapted to where they live. The most recognizable example would be the Urban Ranger. The urban person who knows all the byways of their city, knows the back alleys and the rooftops and the abandoned buildings and criminal factions and gangs who run an area and are able to navigate down in the sewers and etc. Yeah, oh yeah, Mufa puts in an image of, well, Army Rangers essentially, or at least a special forces group. In a military context, modern military context. Oh yeah, Rangers, special forces, Delta, etc. People who are able to. There are excellent military documentaries that I've seen that really embrace the idea of specializing in particular environments. So there's like, winter training and coastal training and swamps and things like that. And I think Rangers really fit into that. But today is Monster Monday, and yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And by the way, Mofa, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, another form of Ranger. One of the great things I think that we can pull from when it comes to Rangers is we know that the Ranger basically kind of represents two things: survival and monster hunting, or at least specializing in confronting a particular adversary, right? And one of the great things about having an adversary is we really get to flex our muscles as a creator by coming up with large types of the adversaries they would normally fight. So an example is, let's say you have a very traditional woodland ranger who is trying to stop the goblinoid hordes. Well, okay, so you pick some goblins, some hobgoblins, and then are you done? No, you start coming up with, the hobgoblin chieftain and the orc leader, and then you have a shaman, and so while on one hand the ranger might be like a badass at going after one type of adversary, giants, monsters, dragons, oozes, or something like that, criminals in an urban environment. It really lets us, it both narrows our focus as to the kinds of enemies a ranger might fight. I suppose if you want to use a trope, I was hoping to hold this off for tomorrow, but I might bring it up tomorrow as well. Blade, the vampire hunter Blade, really fits into the idea of a ranger. Right, here's this guy with a badass um, muscle car, who hunts in the night in the urban area, hunting down enemies in an urban region. Sure, he's gifted with the blood of the thing he's trying to fight, but that's just a side note to an individual who is on the outskirts of society, kind of on the fringes, and is more comfortable fighting in the shadows and not too socialized, but also beating ass when it comes to fighting vampires. And so your classic vampire hunter, heck, your classic hunter itself, hunting down wild game or maybe wolves or lions or something. There's plenty of intellectual properties that deal with hunting down a great beast in the wild is a perfect example of having a ranger. And the ranger's enemy both narrows our focus, like having a limited number of adversaries, whether they are like feathered adversaries, avians or something, or whether they are felines or lupine enemies or something. And then we could kind of start to stretch that out a little bit and really embrace the idea of like, how can we make these different? Like, okay, maybe they are protecting their small community from wolves. Like, ooh, what kind of wolves can we use? Can we use wargs or dire wolves, or what is it? Death's head wolves, winter wolves, and go on and on and on from there. Whether they are hellhounds or werewolves or heck, so many other wolf-like creatures. Maybe even reskin your bugbears as a lupine derivative as well. So also rangers, when it comes to the survival pillar, the exploration pillar, we're really going to deal with that as well. Like, are the rangers in your world protecting sedentary locations where people have made settlements and they're ranging out to protect the borders, or is the population nomadic for some particular reason? Thomas Anderson says basilisks. Yeah, why not? I believe there. I mean, we've got a number of ranger subclasses, like the what's the stalker one? I don't have the book near me. The stalker one, the subterranean ranger and stuff. I mean, you could pick any particular realm. Egg of Death. What's going on there, guys? What's up? Yeah, rangers are pretty good, and I imagine it would make a lot of sense if you have an arcane world to have rangers that can destroy arcane creatures. Like, if you don't want to use the classic creature types like giant or ooze or plant or construct or undead, you could make your own categories. Like, for example, if you want to go uh, Greco-Roman style mythology, you could have rangers that hunt creatures given life by the gods, like minotaurs and harpies and I don't know, cyclopses. Yep, like Thomas Anderson says, displacer beasts. You could put displacer beasts in the category of dangerous felines. You could put them in a category of outer world creatures, as like avatars of fiends or demons or something. Or you could put them, I mean, shadows, hunting dark shadows or necrotic creatures or something like that. Or why not? Yep. Like Egg of Death says, a vampire or a werewolf ranger. Yep. Whether you could throw vampires into the undead, you could throw vampires into like a humanoid section if you want to. Same thing with werewolves. Werewolves could be hunting down shape changers, like an inquisition, shape changers slash lycanthropes, moving from community to community, finding shape changers. So you could throw like werewolf, all lycanthropes plus doppelgangers plus maybe mimics or something in that group, or whatnot. Like you could really, if you really want to stretch it out and make something a little bit more interesting than just, oh, I guess the ranger can only fight werewolves, and that's all we're going to use as stat blocks or something, and make a little more, use the other pillars of exploration to round out the game. Like, instead of the ranger just, oh, I see shape changer, let me go kill it. It might be that the ranger needs to have a more social interaction to navigate through a population that may not understand how dangerous something is, or they know how dangerous it is, but they don't have the skills to find it in their group. Um, Thank you, Tesla. Puts in the monster Hunter of Monsters TV trope. I'll get to that in a minute. Mofa said, I made a ranger with human as a favorite enemy. He was a bounty hunter. Oh, hell yeah. Bounty hunting is a great one because it it both combines hunting and the additional complication of, say, bringing that adversary back to society, to be charged or arrested or executed or interrogated, or and whatnot, or finding out where more people like them are at. Like, a bounty hunter can go after a criminal who's a a small cog in a big machine or something, and that can really open up greater storytelling elements. Well, much like vampire society having different levels of vampires. Like, you have your vampire spawn, your mindless vampires rushing around doing a thing. And you could, with vampires, let's say, like a ranger that hunts only vampires might not just be limited to vampires. It might be bats and dire wolves and vampire spawn, and maybe you start to reskin some other vampiric creatures like, oh, what's the Vargoyle, the head that latches onto people, that's only a head and a spinal cord, or other blood sucking monsters out there like sturges, or blood sucking bats, or whatever. Even maybe throw in some ghosts or zombies and skeletons in there as well, if you'd like to do that. Cameron says, I'm sorry, Thomas Anderson says, be interesting to talk about their philosophy, like the art of war. Right, like, where do they fit into society, and what are their motivations? Like, you could have a whole cadre of rangers, each of them having a different version, motivation. Some, a typical one is I hate those monsters, therefore I'm going to learn every way to kill them, and I have no sympathy for them. Whereas somebody else might be thinking, our people had to leave our home to move to this foreign land. All we want to do is live and survive, right? Well, I don't hate them. I'm just good at killing them, but I don't hate them. I don't have a hate. It's just a survival mechanism, right? Thomas here, he says, I hunt down the government's mistakes. That's actually, while you're, listen, you guys know me. I take your jokes and actually turn them into real story ideas, or the opposite. Like, we talk about something serious and we make jokes. That's actually not a bad thing. A hunter that hunts down mistakes is a great idea, because how many classic Dungeons and Dragons origins are wizard makes mistake. It's an experiment. Yeah, a wizard that hunts down wizard. A ranger that hunts down a wizard's mistakes, either in real time, like, hey, there really is a wizard out there making mistakes all the time, and I've got to go fix it, or the wizard's dead for 5 generations and it's spread around and I'm hunting down. Like, owlbears aren't a real thing, and you're not a real thing. They aren't a natural part of the world. Maybe they are a mutation, much like chimeras and such. And so you could make up your own grouping of mistakes. So I like that idea. I think you hit something. I think your joke is far better story idea than you think it is there, buddy. Cameron says, would you say the Mandalorian is a ranger? He hunts people instead of animals, and he knows how to ride a beast. Plus, I think his survival skills would be pretty good. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, the Mandalorian, of course. Yeah, he's a ranger. Now, listen, I know there are people out there that when you start talking about, is someone a ranger or is someone not a ranger, you we always get that argument of, well, they have other skills. I mean, could you consider Batman to be a ranger? living. I mean, by the tropes of rangering, Batman kind of fits in at living on the edge of society, barely having the ability to communicate socially, although he does a good job in short spurts, hunting down insane people. He kind of has a theme of hunting down other psychologically deficient individuals in Gotham City. Maybe the other trappings might be different. I hear you, because you're like, didn't we just talk about Batman being like a paladin of vengeance? Sure, but he kind of fits in there. The vigilante fits into the ranger role, especially if you have maybe the huntress, one of the Batman's extended family. Batman Incorporated might be one of those individuals. Thomas Anderson says, would SCP military-like groups that go out to capture and contain SCPs maybe fit into this ranger type? SCPs, I don't know the acronym for that, but yes, I would absolutely think that a paramilitary. Cameron's like, Batman is everything. You're right. You're right. 6 degrees of Batman. Batman is the Batman of Batmaning. Wolverine fits into that group as well, I suppose, if you wanted to. Although you could claim that Wolverine more or less fits into the barbarian role, but he's but Wolverine you could put him into into that kind of trope as well. Egodeth says exactly, hunting rogues of their kind, like vampires, werewolves, where there are societal roles that these rogues break, putting peace at danger. Yeah, I mean, we don't have to pick specific like giants only or oozes. Like Egodeth says, maybe something or someone breaks a role in society, and the ranger hunts that role that's broken. So, a world in which, let's go with the vampire werewolf thing, right? There could be, it's not necessary that rangers always only ever fight the thing because it's always there. Maybe in a world where there are vampires and werewolves, they don't hunt them all down. They just hunt down the ones that are getting out of hand, right? Like being of the blood of werewolves and vampires might be a normal thing in this gothic world that you've created, and everyone's used to it. But then there's the ones who've broken the rules of whatever the current rule status is. Like, one of the rules may be, we stay on our side of territory, you stay on your side, and anyone that crosses those territories, whether it's an urban city versus the ones that live in the outskirts, or whether it's, hey, we stay on our side of the mountain pass, you stay on your side. And so a ranger could be like, I'm here to protect our own vampires and werewolves, but I'm sent out to stop the other ones on the outskirts as well. So it doesn't have to be black and white with vampires. Like Tesla says, like alignment, Batman is all, or at least most classes simultaneously. Yeah, he is. uh, yeah, like Tesla Ranger says, for some reason, vampires seem particularly prone to doing this, being a hunter of his own kind. You will see Dom Pears, or maybe I'm really butchering that pronunciation. Yeah, Dom Pears, friendly neighborhood vampires, and especially vampire detectives engaging in it. Maybe it's because they like to turn their enemies out of spite. Is it damp ears? Damp ears. Yeah. Yeah, the hunter of their own kind is a very common trope, and I think rangers really fit into that, especially if you wanna let a player really reskin a ranger. Like, could you imagine a vampire hunting ranger, and instead of the classic, like, oh, I only get these woodland style spell like abilities for my ranger, you could go, hey, let's make up our own spell list for the ranger that is like necrotic, and maybe with shadows and undead and that kind of thing. I would go for that. If a player came to me with an idea of that nature, I'd go for it pretty pretty simple to do, really. Think about it. Okay, what level spells are they? Let's just replace ones with the others and be done with it. And you know, Thomas Anderson says, "What about it being a problem with communication, uh, but rather because of psychological reasons, rather than being a limited skills in communication? Uh, SCPs are anomalies that are almost magic, like that they are very, very, very dangerous, like a mirror that leads to a very dangerous place. If you were ever looking for inspiration for game themes and components, the SCP or secure, contain, protect, secure. See, I didn't know what I. For some reason, it made me think of ABC, atomic, biological, and chemical. I don't know why it came to my mind, but I couldn't erase it out of my mind to open it up. Anyway, secure, contain, protect is a pretty broad resource. And says, oh, another good one is someone who, when they touch something or someone, that person turns into nothing but pennies. So you're saying like there could be something that is common to the world. Like let's take wizards for example, right? Like maybe wizards are a very common thing, but rangers are there to when magic gets out of hand, they're there to stop it. You know. Um, oh, Cammy, you're so silly. But yeah, the secure, contain, protect idea for rangers may be something like what are some other common commonalities like protecting. Uh, um, um, Western stories do this a lot. A bunch of people who protect a wagon train from going from one place to another, or protecting trade routes, right, from the dangers that are outside. Damp, a damp pier. Cameron's like, Dampier, I'm going to suck your blood. Victim, ew, why are you so moist? Dampier, I'm not moist, I'm damp. Buddha midst. Yeah, yeah. Egodet says police force in effect, protecting the use of magic. Sure, why not? Also, the idea of rangers being just kill or be killed might be different, especially if rangers are designed and trained to be the deterrent itself. Like an example, because you could start breaking this trope as well. Rangers go out into the borders they're like rangers, scouts slash diplomats of sorts. Like, hey, we live here too with an enemy force, and we're here to talk to you about allowing us to pass through your territory. And the rangers are like, they're an example. Let's go with the Dungeons and Dragons example. So dwarves might have a treaty, albeit tenuous, with like fire giants or frost giants in the mountains, who aren't there to eliminate the giants or frost or fire giants, but they're there to like say, listen, we there's a reason why you guys call us kneecappers, because we're here to make sure our people can pass through from one cave system to another, and all our people are trying to do is just pull tubers from the ceiling and pick up bushels of baskets of mushrooms off the walls, and we're here to make sure that they're safe, right? And the giants are like, yeah, we respect you guys, you guys are badass, but just be it known, I don't know whether something changes or the king dies or the queen mother changes her opinion, we're going to come after you, so the rangers might not be murder killing everything. They might be like, hey, listen, raise your head, and we might have to go out and murder kill you guys as well. Also, rangers might be very selective in who they kill as well. So an example would be let's go for something different. Let's go for like a post-apocalyptic world of celestial angels and fiendish demons and devils that have like scoured the world, and there's like pits of fire and locations of purity and light, and humanity might be in the middle. Rangers might be in the sense of, we can't change the world, but we're here like assassination attempts or kidnapping or putting down dictators, right? So yeah, like Thomas Anderson says. So sometimes they speak softly but carry a big stick. Oh hell yeah, they might be the threat. They might be the nuclear option before things get out of hand, right? Where like they walk into the horde, the goblinoid horde, and they're like, listen, you guys have always been okay on that side of the fence, but your people are starting to come to an excursion on our side, and all we're here to do is just trade. And the goblinoids might be like, we've always had respect. Maybe this other clan or something is breaking the rules or is breaking the treaty, or maybe the Rangers, let's take the story a little further. Maybe the Rangers have to work with the goblinoid Rangers, right? The two enemies have to take their special forces to work together to figure out who it is that is trying to cause the war that both sides are trying to stop. So the Ranger idea might be like, we're only Rangers because we're keeping the peace, because if we have to be used, that means war starting. And so forces that are fighting outside of society, out in the wilderness, might actually have more respect for each other and a different dynamic than the community that they work for. Like, everyone thinks that the goblinoid hordes and humanity hate each other, but the Rangers themselves might be looking at each other like, okay, all right, I see how good you are. And it's kind of like the classic US version of not gun running, prohibition, where NASCAR came about from prohibition, where the police, the authorities would chase after people who are trying to run alcohol across state lines. And then, but they actually had respect for each other, where on the weekends they'd race their cars to see who had the fastest car, because they would modify them and such. So there might actually be like, who's the best archer, who's the best hunter. Heck, they could even hunt together and hunt down game and eat and everything. And they're like, when the humans talk to the humanoids, they might be thinking, nodding to each other like, all right, we had some fun out here, but let's get down to brass tacks, right? Let your people know that our people are willing to go to war because your people are sending incursions into ours. And then the other side is like, the big orc dude is like, yeah, well, I'll find out who they are. They're not part of our group, but maybe they're trying to elicit a war or something, whatever. Like, you could have a lot of stories where the Rangers are dynamically social as well. Sorry. Thomas says, sorry, Cameron says, just thought about Rangers who keep the peace with Forest Fae, but also know how to kick their butts. Yeah. Oh yeah. Forest Fae who clean dishes when the kids put cookies on and warm milk on the windowsills, one thing, but Fae that like to lead innocent people away from their duties to go out having a month-long debauchery of drinking alcohol and turning into donkeys and stuff. The Rangers might be like, we need our people back. You need to transform them back from frogs and slugs and turtles or whatnot. And the fake creature's like, oh, it's the Rangers. We better. All right, we thought we were having fun. Tesla Ranger says Orion of classical mythology initially worked for a king, slaying monsters and other dangerous beasts that plagued said king's island. Orion was incredibly successful at his job and hoped that by ridding the island of its monsters, the king would eventually allow him to marry his daughter. I was going to bring up that subject. I think that's really great for world building. Anyway, who Orion gifted with trophies from his hunts. This did not work, and after an ordeal involving alcohol-induced idiocy, eyes being gouged out, a journey to restore said eyes, and a failed attempt at revenge, wow, Orion left the island. He later met and became the hunting companion of Artemis and continued to hunt monsters alongside her until his untimely death. That brings up the idea of hunting. Would hunting be a survival mechanism, i.e., we go out to hunt? There's many stories of hunting the spiritual best of something, right? Like hunting the great elk, which is the embodiment of the greatest hunted elk ever to have lived, and then giving thanks to the spirits that would create the elk in the first place. So one manner of being a ranger could be hunting for the sake of a historical and cultural need. Like, for example, we don't just hunt down willy-nilly a bunch of rabbits and elk and deer or antelopes or something, but we are tasked with hunting the best of the best. And once we kill that thing, we get to feed our people for a whole season, thereby not having to kill everything in our path, right? Like, it could be a coming of age story. It could be a a giving thanks to the elder gods or something of that nature, as well as the fact that a test. It's always a test of manhood, where we could stretch it out to a test of adulthood. So you don't have to it just doesn't have to just be men, but it could be everyone in a group. It could be a trial where could you imagine a whole monst- monstrous beings are out there, and a whole cadre of people are trying to graduate to become a ranger type monster hunter for no other purpose than to hunt these other monstrous, like kaiju styled creatures that exist out there. Like, could you imagine a ranger group that is hunting things that are, let's take the classic Tarask, right? The Tarask itself might be the apex predator of dozens of other things that are smaller than it, like insects, or what is a Tarask like? Similarly ranged, like insects or dinosaurs, or I don't know, troglodytes or something of that nature. Or you could mix together a bunch of these things, and like dragons could be an apex predator for all of the drakes and worms and serpents and drakes, worms, serpents, lizards. I can't think of the other dragonoid terminology, but they might be like, the PCs might start out with kobolds trying to move their way up. Godzilla, yeah, Godzilla, an apex dragon type creature. Hell yeah, dragon turtles are another one. Half dragons or something else. So rangers might be set out like, okay, classically, we're going to hunt these things down because our ancient peoples hunted them down, and the gods have chosen us to be there. Like, rangers might be something of a divine blessing of sorts. Wyverns and linorms. Yep, wyverns are the winged versions without the four limbed, without six limbs, and the linorms are like they're like remorazes, right? They're the winter serpents, kind of furry serpents, if I'm not mistaken. Ninja turtles. Yeah, Ninja turtles are kind of rangery in a little bit. You will be trained to hunt. Collect them all. Shahrazad. Yep, collect them all. Okay, so lastly, here's another strange thing you could do with rangers if you really want to start stretching them out. Um, the ranger that hunts a thing might shift, or you might allow your player to shift their known or um, favored environment and enemy based on the circumstances of your world. So for example, yeah, Cameron's like, Ninja Turtles are ninjas. Ninja Turtles, I suppose, would fit perfectly. But okay, so let's take the idea of rangers having they are forced to leave where they live to go somewhere else. You could establish a world, like a chaotic world, where there is no safe place. Earthquakes happen all the time. A peaceful sun-drenched day with butterflies is rare. And so when players are dropped on a deserted island or they travel through this hellscape or something like that, that the players may have to attune to their how do I say that? A ranger could have a floating environment and a floating adversary, but they can't change it willy nilly. So they go to this hellscape. They're going around this world of dead things, and then maybe a player's like, can I pick giants as my hated enemy? And you're like, sure, but if you pick giants, you can't just change it whenever you want to. Maybe it's like a month's time, or you have to reattune, or you have to beseech certain gods or something. So I'm thinking of like an individual where like the elder gods have come down and they gift a player character with the ability to confront a certain type, or a ranger kind of framed in a way like a warlock. Like, I want to kill my enemies, give me the skills and power to kill my enemies, and uh, a great power comes to them and goes, yeah, I'll give you that power, but you have to do something for me first, right? And then they're given that power or something. Or a noble that's been kicked out of their realm, like the noble background, and sent on their way, and now that noble wants to hunt down the people or the creatures or whatever ancient power that destroyed their bloodline, and now they are the last remaining member of their noble family, and they want to return, like become a being of vengeance in a way. Like, oh, I'm not hunting just all giants, I'm hunting those giants and all the people that belong to that particular faction or cult or nation or something like that. Like, Cameron says, can you get multiple favorite enemies and environments in 5e? I think I don't like to do this, but I'll look it up. Let's see. Let's look up the ranger. It's possible. I suppose also as well. Excuse me. I suppose also as well. You could you if you wanted to stretch it out, you could just say, "Oh, my favorite enemy." Instead, is just the people that belong to a specific faction, right? Like, if I could be pretty nasty, um, in our real world, like, oh, I can only hunt people from Madagascar, right? Or Mongolia or like Chile or something, rather than a particular monster type. Favorite enemy. Choose a favorite enemy beginning at first level. So it's like you can pick a favorite enemy: aberrations, beasts, celestials, constructs, dragons, elementals. What would it be like to be a good character hunting celestials? Ooh. Anyway, fae, fiends, giants, monstrosities, oozes, plants, or undead. Alternatively, you can select two races of humanoid, such as gnolls and orcs, as favorite enemies. When you gain this feature, you learn one language. You choose one additional favorite enemy, as well as an associated language at 6th and 14th level. So yes, you can. And what is it? Yep, Natural Explorer. You choose additional favorite terrain types at 6th and 10th level. Make it known that, remember, you get to pick the language as well at 6th and 14th level. And that's the base ranger. So yeah, absolutely. You could pick other favorite enemies, which might be kind of interesting for a ranger at lower levels to murder kill a certain favorite enemy, and then eventually they become an ally of sorts. Um, Cameron says, I think Bill Murray played a ranger once. I remember something about a golf course and some ground living rodents. Hells yes. Oh man, the CR level of that gopher was pretty high. Caused him psychological damage and everything. Oh man, that's pretty hilarious. What else is there? So anyway, guys, we're circling down to the end. This week, of course, is going to be a little bit light. At least I thought so. Where this week we'll be talking. This week is here in the States. Thanksgiving Thursday is, of course, the holiday, but we still will go live 6 a.m. on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So please across that. Yeah, Edgar that's laughing inside like I am. Bill Murray in a golf course. Oh shit. Yeah, I mean, heck, listen, a Goblin Ranger having to clean out the sewer system or something. Like you guys mentioned, an Urban Ranger having to clean out the criminals or being a bounty hunter works really well. Um, Tesla Ranger puts in the 20 plus monster hunting kits, um, ideas, monster hunting, vampire hunting. Ooh, Pinterest. Wow. Explore Shannon Hinman's board monster hunting kits. Oh, like let's see if this will let me do it because sometimes it gets a little bit. Wow, those are really cool. Yep, like vampire hunting kits with dag. Oh, that's really cool. I like those. Man, that's a lot of detail. The Pinterest link. Yeah, that's really cool. That's those images are awesome. Yep. Hey, listen, when you're hunting like ghosts and vampires and stuff, you got to have a Bible, a cross, a couple of stakes, some holy water, a hammer to hammer in, a hatchet, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I love it. Lastly, one other thing that we tend to ignore, which we can really include with rangers, is maybe there's more to it than just killing the monster. Maybe it's collecting something like its skin or glands or eyeballs or its eggs, some effluvia left over from the monster that is important to survival. Like for example, maybe the monsters produce some kind of maybe there's something in their blood or something in their skin that is produced, or maybe their skin is harnessed and used for coating their weapons or used as armor, like of course the classic idea of using dragon scales as armor. Maybe the animals, the monsters themselves are able to hunt. They can find maybe an ingredient that is used for like arcane purposes, or heck, the idea of the monster. Let's go back to Egg semi joke, which is the ranger that hunts down government mistakes. If maybe they are hunting down constructs that are like the equivalent of clockwork cyborgs that have gotten loose. They hunt down the Frankenstein monsters. They, yep, Thomas Anderson says like the Dune worms' feces used as spice. Yep, heck, the Fremen in Dune are rangers that get Dune worm feces. The spice blow sounds better when you call it melange rather than like everyone's like, are you literally sniffing feces? Because that's kind of nasty. It is a spice that makes me sniff the feces that makes my nose smell like dookie. My dookie smells like for it is the dookie that brings me back to the melange, and the melange opens the mind. I can't remember what the thing is, but yeah. Rangers who specialize in procuring components for mages. Oh hell yeah! Like Vicious Cycle. Um, Chimeras created by wizard mistakes. Kill the chimera to get its organs or glands or something, eggs or something, to then procure those things to bring it back to the mages who are there to get experiments. Like, yeah, why not be the monster hunter who is not even, maybe rangers aren't there to hunt monsters. Maybe they're just there to find roots or seeds or something. The monsters just happen to be in the way. Yeah, shrooms do grow in cow patties. Yep. Wow. What grows in a minotaur's patty? Minotaurs are like, um, before we start fighting, what are you doing? Yep, egg hunting rangers. Yeah, you. If okay, this sounds kind of strange, but let's say you have a group. Let's be a little bit more sensitive to people in the group. There are some people who really don't like the idea of hunting down natural animals, right? Like I don't want to. I want to play a ranger, but I don't want to hunt and kill things. So a ranger could be a class whose purpose is not to hunt things down, but to procure things, it just so happens that there are things in the way of procuring the thing. So, um, the Bruce Wayne finding the blue flower that only grows in the highest peaks of a winter area, the Rangers might be there to go and find those, or maybe a Ranger's there to get, I don't know, Pegasus ponies or rock eggs or something of that nature. A lot of monsters can be domesticated. Maybe Rangers are out to go domesticate those monsters, but you gotta get them when they're small first. And it just so happens that they're fighting hippogriffs and griffins, but they're trying to get the eggs back to humanity to be then hatched and raised and whatnot. So yeah, a ranger could be something that procures something for some other reason, and it just so happens that they are fighting the monsters that are out there, simply to procure the thing to survive. Um, Thomas Anderson. So that fox in the hen house is just a ranger. Fox is like, listen, I'm not here to cause damage. Gulp. Man, yep, absolutely. Um, what else? Also, let's maybe we just have rangers who are just maybe this is a post-apocalyptic or prehistoric world where humanity just doesn't have cities anymore. Maybe we're playing in a world that's all um, bare. It's going to sound like I'm being wrong, but I don't mean it this way. But barefoot survival. Everyone's prehistoric. There literally are no city states. Everyone is just has passed by proto Neanderthal almost, and the largest communities are no bigger than 50 to 100 at the maximum, and maybe they're traveling on the backs of dinosaurs or dragon turtles or what have you in the different regions in this world. And maybe the rangers are just like, listen, all we want to do is go to this new hunting area and collect roots and herbs and spices and kill, maybe, like, for example, ancient peoples often followed herds of animals. So the ranger might be like, listen, we only want to kill one member of the herd, but we're here to protect the rest of the herd. So what's something in, all right, um wow, okay, rangers might be there to cull a herd so it doesn't get too big. They may be there to domesticate part of a herd of types of animals, and they may also be using them as, we only kill one, but we have enemies that want to kill all of them, so we will fight our enemies to protect our own, right? And or maybe there's something out there uh, that is more dangerous than rabies, that turns something that is very domesticated into something that can be very violent. So chimera might be a side effect of something that's pretty normal out there, And the Rangers are like, uh-oh, they've got chimeralosis, and we've got to put it down because the chimeralosis is taking it over, you know. And Thomas Anderson says, or the razor vine. In my concept, I mentioned the other day, having both telepathic ability to use info to lure in, say, a dog by forcing a paralyzed female dog. It has already to act in heat. Yeah, like something could psychologically or like psychically or infest it to make it act in a way to bring it closer to something else that starts to infest it, and people don't know that it's been infested. Um, I like that idea. Thomas Anderson says, put out the chemistry that the male dog would sense. Yep. And when it traps the male, now it uses both to make puppies. Um, so that it's only using everything there to grow seeds inside, like a face hugger. Ooh, a ranger hunting down xenomorphs. Ooh, that's awesome. The vine has substance too that keeps the aging from happening, so it can use the exploded bodies and seed pods over and over. So harvesting it to use as a telepathic potion or life extension. Ooh, there could be a very dark secret that rangers are allowing their population to be used as feed material for something out there that keeps that particular enemy at bay. Like, could you imagine these insidious plants that are using humans as feed material? Because if they don't, their pollen, or they may, like, for example, maybe there's only a small grove and the rangers are actually bringing, like, they're elderly or they're sick, or sacrificing some of their own to feed these things, because if they don't, their vines will literally spread out. Cameron's like, Dritz versus Alien. I'd watch that movie. Yeah. So anyway, guys, we've come to the end. I do have to head off to work. Thank you very much for popping in. As always, sometimes we come across some, like, really simple things, and I think there's more to it. We love the term I always use is backing ourselves into a corner, and I love doing that. Um, much like the idea I have, I really haven't gone into it, but much like the idea I have of creating this role playing game, this retcon, the role playing game about time travel, where I'm kind of backing myself into a corner as to how it's going to operate, and and then digging myself out of that corner. And I think it's a great way to exercise the mind, to go, you know what? Let's make rangers and we're only going to use trolls. What can we do? Oh, no. Thank you. Listen, Agadeth, no, thank you. I really do mean that, guys, because you guys are here pretty damn often and regularly. Um, may the force be with you. Yeah, thank you. May the force be with you guys. Have a great one. Great holiday. Please don't apologize for not being here. Family comes first, and your psychology comes first too, as many places around the world, states, communities, counties, etc., are starting to shut down. Maybe many of you won't be able to hang out with family you want to, or travel like you want to. So if this is just, I can't help you guys if you are stressed, but I hope this is a place where you have a little bit of escape to at least get a new insight into the things that you're dealing with, that you have going on in yourself. Thomas Anderson says, I have not role played in ages, but each show makes me want to start up again a bit more. Yeah, guys. And listen, this show is all about stealing ideas. Don't apologize for that. Steal them. That's listen, I think I'm trying to use myself as an example that you're better than you think you are. And no matter how many ideas we come up with, there's always more out there. So share them, use them, bring them out, man. Take the old book and blow the dust off, man. Start some games up. So don't be afraid. Guys, have a great one. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great one. See you. Bye. I love it. I love it so much. All right, man.